And now, welcome to another Cliff's List webinar. And I'm very pleased today to have as my guest Scot McKay, who is someone I've known and been following for many, many years now. I don't even know if I can remember how far back we go. But Scott is, I guess, like me, a little bit of an old timer in the industry now. And the industry of helping guys become more successful with women, if that is an industry, I guess it is in a way. Scott, I'm sure some of the people listening to this probably aren't really familiar with you. I'd like you to take a few seconds and or a few minutes and tell people a little bit about yourself, your history, what you do, and this sort of thing, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about some more ideas that you may have to help guys.
Well, I'll keep that blessedly short just to make sure guys like me. I'm not going to go on. But yeah, Cliff, you and I have known each other for 11 years now. And I've always been a big fan of how you kind of act as an impresario for other guys with all sorts of beliefs about how to get better with women. And it's always intrigued me. And I appreciate from the very beginning how you gave me a forum way back in 2006 to write, and got some really good feedback from that. And here we are years later hosting what used to be the Chick Whisperer podcast, now is the Mountaintop podcast, and with Facebook group to match. Went from having 16 people on my mailing list over 60,000 nowadays. And it's just been really an incredible privilege for 11 or 12 years now to help guys who think they're not getting anywhere with women and who really want to, good, decent men of character, find really great women. And nowadays, there's guys going their own way. You have the men going their own way, and people who have really gotten a little discouraged and maybe even a little forlorn with the whole attack against toxic masculinity. And just like we were chit-chatting about before we started, Cliff, nowadays it almost feels weird to be a heterosexual man. And, it's like that in and of itself is under attack. And you kind of have to sit back and wonder, how are we going to further the human race if we're not allowed to make babies with women anymore? And I've come to the conclusion that most women really aren't that angry. They really still want a real man. They want a man of virtue. A pox on people who think we're all toxic simply because we're masculine. That's not at all how the design is. You're supposed to be a man of virtue. There's some bad guys out there, but there's some black-hearted women out there too. We're all human beings. Some of us hold ourselves to a higher standard than others. And just because someone else does somebody wrong doesn't mean we're to be thrown in that same basket. So that's what I've always been about. I've always stood for respecting women, for being what I call a big four man. So I'm all about confidence. I'm all about really sorting out what masculinity really means to the women we're attracting, making women feel safe and comfortable in our presence, which I think is just the secret of the universe to getting better with women. And of course, what nobody talks about, which is being a man of character, have a cornerstone belief system, make your yes, do what you say you're going to do. And man, those are the people who go down in history as truly great. And that's what we've always been about around here.
Maybe you can start by telling me how do you sort of bring a guy along in the sort of the Scot McKay view of things, like you meet like somebody sort of finds out about you, and he's just got this vague idea that he wants to improve his life with women. Where do you start with him, and where do you take him, and what's the main process basically?
Well, I'll tell you, I've never been the kind of guy who needed to have clones of myself. I'm not arrogant enough to believe that my way of doing things is the only way, and that you got to be exactly like me and do what I did, or you're not going to be successful. That's not to say that there aren't guys I've coached and who I've worked with over the years who've done exactly that and are very happy for it. And I do tend to attract a group of guys to my writings and to my work who many times have gone through some of the same things I have and felt the same things I felt. And I think that's all well and good. But what I do is I meet every guy where he is. I mean, I have guys who come to me who've got very profound bitterness towards women in general. Got guys who are coming from a position of having rather profound personal challenges to overcome that I never had to face. And I'm always going to respect every man who comes to me, because let me tell you what, as I've gotten more mature, I've come to realize that the greatest weakness is believing that you don't have any weaknesses or believing that you don't need any help, never admitting you need the help, because then you're never going to get past any of the other weaknesses you have in life if you're not teachable like that. And I know for many years there were a lot of places where I had a lot of pride that I wasn't coachable or teachable, and I lived with that disaster until the day came where I found some humility and I went for it. And that's why I always am kind of frankly in awe of guys who say, hey, look, you know what? I'm not going to be that guy who never asks directions for anything until the car is on fire and just wanders around lost. You know, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to be the guy who gets a coach, who gets a mentor, who figures out the answers and succeeds where other guys fail. Because I'll tell you what, after you get someone who knows what they're doing to mentor you along and you get to that point where you never thought you'd be, you're really glad you're there. I've never had anybody who succeeded say to me, man, I'm really sorry I went and did this. You know, I really wish I was where I was 2 years ago or even 3 months ago. That has never happened. And it's kind of like, you know, you're never going to have a beautiful woman shame you for liking beautiful women. She's perfectly okay with it because after all, she's beautiful. It's always the women who you don't find beautiful who try to shame you as a man for, you know, being so shallow and not loving her for her mind or something. And, you know, to kind of go along with the answer to your question, I always tell guys, hey, look, be the man who deserves what you want and then go for that whole package. You know, you don't have to have a woman who isn't beautiful. You can have the woman of your dreams in every way. Yeah, beautiful plus smart and sweet and level-headed and kind and, you know, not the kind of person who's going to turn on you and drag you through the family law system in 5 years and ruin your career. And, you know, the men going their own way would have you believe you'd end up in jail because you can't support anybody because you're supporting only her, and then you commit suicide and die, and it's all her fault. You know, it's all women's fault. I believe that guys who want to strive for more, guys who want to succeed, most every time can succeed. I mean, sometimes guys need a different kind of professional than I if they've got something profound going on in terms of mental illness. Some guys who are really, really suffering with hate and bitterness need to go through therapy first. But I've come to the conclusion that most men, like most women, you know, on the flip side of this, most men really just want to do right by women and want to enjoy the company of great women. I think women out there are like that. You know, they want to meet men and enjoy the company of great men. And really, it's all about helping guys get past this belief system that I can't find the woman I want, or I just don't know how to find the woman I want, or that brainwashing, that propaganda, frankly, that says women don't want me anymore. You know, all of that, all of those thought processes are where guys are coming from when they come to me. I get a lot of guys who are coming off of a very rough divorce. That's part of my history. And I'm kind of the poster boy for bouncing back from a divorce that should have ruined you and your life with women, only to have the greatest relationship and the greatest life with the woman of your dreams, you know, subsequent to that ever. So I get a lot of guys who are like that. Lots of very smart, lots of very educated guys, a lot of guys who are so smart, they're too smart for their own good. They just overanalyze everything with that high IQ of theirs. Lots of guys who are military, a lot of guys from Annapolis, West Point, a lot of guys from all over the world. And what they have in common is they're great men who don't have the right woman to share life with yet. Some of those guys want to date 6 women at once for a few years until they kind of get that out of their system. Some guys want to do that with no timeline. Some guys meet me and they go, look, I just want to find one great woman. I don't have time for all this dating. I don't need to notch my bedpost. Wherever those guys are coming from that respect is immaterial to me. I mean, some guys who have followed my work don't really fully realize that I dated an awful lot before I met Emily. I was dating 4 or 5 women at a time. And, you know, it was wonderful. That lifestyle was great. I'm not about to piss on that. But I think most guys eventually come to the point where they want to have a legacy with someone they can have children with that they don't have to pay child support to and see on weekends, and someone they can travel the world with and build a history with. And all those guys are welcome here and always have been. That was the
So,
short answer.
okay, what how do you deal with some of the specific issues that the guys come up with? Like yeah, things like approach anxiety or
Mm.
an inability to keep a conversation going and this type of thing.
Well, in a way, I think what I do is revolutionary, and in another way, I think it's really evolutionary. And I know that was a cryptic thing to say. So I'll just start off by saying this. I've been happily married monogamously and by choice monogamously to the woman of my dreams for 11 years now. It will be 11 years in December of this year. I've known her for almost 12. Our relationship is exactly what you think it is. It's wonderful. It's terrific. She's just the cutest little thing, and she does the most amazing things for me and I for her. We have kids who are terrific. My 5-year-old daughter is a little miniature Emily, and she's, our world. And so is my son. It's just amazing to be a father. And when I was 30, I was scared to have kids. I didn't want to bring children into this awful world. I made all those excuses. But 20 years hence, it just nothing else would make any sense. And so even though I'm that guy, I'm a family man and I'm happily married. Every guy who has ever gone infield with me with the full purpose of meeting women and learning how to build conversations and make interest has left believing I've got to be one of the best in the world at it. And obviously my work in that area has been underrated because no one thinks of a married guy as being the right guy to go out in field with. I've never been a pickup artist. So what I do is I get guys to come to me, and what we do is we go out and we make women adore us. We do for beautiful women what beautiful women do for us. What beautiful women charm us. They make us want them. They make us adore them. They make us want to do anything for them. And what I teach guys is the art of being incredibly charming and desirable just by your very presence to any one female. I mean, the first thing I do when guys get off the plane, other than go grab a beer and get a good night's sleep, and they come back, wake up the next morning. A lot of times the guys who are either suffering from shyness or just don't know how to approach women, a lot of it is either, it's either shyness, fear of rejection, or fear of bothering them has superseded that because of all the political correctness out there and the backlash against masculinity. I'm sure you've seen the same thing, Clifford. And, we go out there and we're just good to women, and we're masculine, and I teach them confidence. They're just human beings. And the next thing you know, the women will just brighten up, and it becomes easier to talk to them because they like you. You've been charming. The art of being charming makes women adore you. I mean, I'm 50 years old, and I had a guy come to me who was actually 54, and we were out meeting women, and for some strange reason, everyone we were meeting and talking to was like under 24. All these girls are like 21 to 24-year-old girls, and we're just charming them all, and they're eating out of our hand, and they love us. And he keeps saying to me, God, if you were single, you could have gotten her number. Or, I should get her number. She really likes me, doesn't she? I said, she sure does. And these girls aren't only young enough to, they're half our age. I mean, we're not just old enough to be their dad. I mean, we've been old enough to be their dad for 5 or 6 years now, And who knows if a woman would actually go out with a guy double her age, 30 years older than her. But it sure seems like they would. If at the very least they're attracted and they like and they want more and they're giggling and they're happy and they're looking you in the eye and they're asking for personal information. They're more interested in you. They want to know what we're doing later. All of those things. And it shocks guys' system to see how easy it is to do that. And the funny thing is this one guy who was in his 50s said to me, this is really great, Scott. We're meeting all these 23-year-old girls. Is there any chance we could go meet some women closer to our own age? And I just laughed. I mean, it was like, I wish I think somewhere I put that as a quote on one of my web pages just because it's so amazing, Of course we can. And, we go meet women who are in their 40s or late 30s, and you can charm them the same way you charm the younger women. It works like a charm. I believe that, when you're masculine, as women define it, And when you make women feel safe and comfortable and you're confident, and by confident, I mean you believe in your own competence. You believe, you're the first one to believe women should go out with me. Women should like me because women will follow your lead. They're programmed to do it. It's just how women are because men represent safety and security, and women will respond powerfully to a man who frees them up not to have to worry about that. And that's how I operate. I don't even operate from a premise of here's how you get them to think about sex. I don't talk about Kino escalation. Hell, man, you wait for them to touch you first because you're going to be irresistible. They're going to start touching you. Women will start patting me on the shoulder and you know, just touching me when they think something's funny. I'm not driving it at all. You know, I'm just being more masculine, and I'm giving women a sense of charm. And guys see this, and they start acting on it, and they're themselves, but they all of a sudden believe, "Look, if this McKay schlub can do it, I can do it." And you know, invariably, by the end of the weekend, their confidence is through the roof. They're seeing results they've never seen, and that's how I've always talked about getting better with women and meeting women and getting over approach anxiety. Because I think once you see results in real time, it just takes a few times. And then, you know, all right, well, you know what? These women are actually going to like me. They're not going to all call they're not all going to call the sexual harassment police simply because I'm talking to them. You know, there have actually been men's products that have those god awful video sales letters with the words and the, you know, and the narrative saying, you know, kind of reinforcing that, like, if you go to the grocery store, talk to a woman, you know, I'm writing you from jail right now because I talked to a woman. And it doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know what we're trying to foment out there, but it isn't something that works. What works is the same thing towards women that the women who you're attracted to are doing for you. They're being feminine, they're approachable, they're being friendly, and they believe you should like them. They think they're hot. They know they've got it. So when you talk to a woman and you believe women should like you and you give them space and you're likable, the new word I'm using is connectable. I think there are people who don't go out of their way to give women anything to like, and then they wonder why all their dates are going terribly. You know, those are the kind of things that I help guys smooth out. It comes down to deserving what you want, which is my website title. It was the title of my first book. I can't believe it wasn't used already because it seems so completely basic and elementary. In other words, if you want a great woman, be the kind of guy she wants, and then the rest is going to take care of itself. And I think, by the way, before the guys will get a knee-jerk response and say, well, yeah, rich, tall, good-looking, I'm none of the above. Okay? You know, hell, it's not even cool to be white anymore. I got that going against me, too. You know, we were just like we were talking. I mean, it's just a matter of doing the things that women find attractive at the personal level, because so few guys do it. Every guy's really pushy. They're sex focused. I always say, Cliff, the guys who are trying to get laid are the least laid guys I know because women can see through it. It's like when a woman's trying to marry a 10 millionaire, every 10 millionaire out there is going, I don't think so. This chick just wants money. So, you know, you got to connect in a human way with them. All of that is so central to how I teach men how to get over the approach anxiety, to talk to women. You know, the approach anxiety thing to me just starts off with they're human. Treat them like, you know, treat women the way you would treat women you're not attracted to, even if you are attracted to them, and watch how magically they're the same exact kind of person those other women are. It's incredible.
So it sounds like a very logical approach to dealing with the situations.
All day game too. I just think anytime you're going to a place where it's designed to be a meat market that pits men who are trying to get laid against women who are trying to look all cool and you know, be the yaya. I mean, you're just asking for trouble. You know, anything that's more of a natural environment. Guys ask me all the time, where should I go meet women? When should I be ready to meet women? The answer is everywhere and all the time. I mean, obviously you're going to have tough days and you're going to have days you don't feel like it. But I just believe in being human. I don't believe there's a set venue for, you know, pick up and getting laid. I think that you're stacking the deck against yourself. Be ready to meet any woman anywhere simply by being a masculine, charming guy.
And how, I guess, I think you kind of said it, but I'm not sure I grasped it. Like, and how do you turn these guys into charming guys?
Honestly, I can't believe how much of it has to do with confidence. I mean, all they really need to see, I call it two bonanzas. If you have two women who go, "Oh my God, you're so charming and cute, I just love you," and they give you a big hug, guys are going to think, "God," it's almost like a Chris Farley. "God, I've been so stupid. Why did I not believe?" Guys will come to me and they'll go, "I can't get any women to go out with me." Well, how many women have you asked out? And the answer is bupkis, none. It's like, well, I could never do that. Well, there are all these programs and books and marketing, how-tos out there on how to get women to approach you first. Nowadays, women are empowered. There's talk about the fourth wave feminist movement, which is sexual empowerment, reclaiming the word slut, and women, being able to have casual sex whenever they want, like men have been able to, and saying no to sexual shame. A lot of guys are going to stand up and cheer over that, I'm sure. But in reality, women still aren't really asking a lot of men out. I mean, online dating, get ready, because they're going to start writing you first more than they used to. That's great. But really, women are just so much more turned on when we are bold and we tell them the way we feel about them in a way that makes them feel good about themselves. And, when you go and you meet women like that, when guys come to me and they say, "I can't do this," and I've had guys who just will not do it. I think in many ways I'm the right teacher, because I don't think I stand out as like some kind of guy who's going to make other guys think, well, if he does, I mean, look at him. I mean, I had a guy who was a famous Hollywood guy. I interviewed him and he had designs on being some sort of dating coach, but I mean, he had everything going for him and always had. He didn't relate to guys who didn't have success with women. By God, I sure can. Everything you see from me is a learned skill. I've laughed with my wife so often about how if she would have met me 20 years, we wouldn't be together. 20 years ago, we wouldn't be together. I wasn't ready for her yet. It was a long road for me. But yeah, I mean, Cliff, most guys, when you get right down to it, we're all average guys. I mean, you could walk around all day and you're going to see one guy who looks like a Hollywood leading man who's just gorgeous and tall and whatever. The rest of us, there's so many beautiful women, so many more beautiful women than beautiful men. I mean, women don't want a guy who's more beautiful than them anyway. I mean, they don't want to be upstaged by their guy. They want to be the pretty one. All of us, we come up with so many excuses, and really it's all about masculinity. It's all about making her feel safe. I mean, you see women just adore. I mean, my wife's friends all adore me, and I'm not many of their types. I'm not anything like their husbands, but they feel safe and comfortable around me, and they're drawn. It's a magnetism. Like when you see a beautiful woman who's sexy and feminine, you just want more of her. Well, that works in reverse, and we have to start learning how to trust that, because a lot of guys just don't have the confidence first in themselves, and I guess what I'm getting at here is they don't have confidence in masculinity anymore either to attract women naturally. But you almost have to fly by wire and fly by instruments and believe it's there. You have to use the force.
Well, I think that, and it's one thing that I think most guys have a real hard time believing, but you hear it all the time that a lot of women will say, "Oh, well, Brad Pitt, he's not my type," or "George Clooney's not my type." You got lots of women that you never know what a woman's type actually is. So that's the main reason you should go for it, because you have nothing to lose to start with.
If I had $1 for every woman I've ever gone out with offline off of an online dating site who said she wanted guys over 6 feet tall, and I'm 5'6", I could probably buy a nice new motorcycle. Maybe not $1. If I had $10, I could buy a nice new motorcycle. Motorcycles are expensive. But oh my God. My wife said she's never been out with a guy under 6 feet tall before, and she just loves me. And she doesn't, it's funny, when we were first dating, I've told this story before. because it was so shocking to me. We're just lying in the dark watching a TV movie. I think it was Ocean's 11 or something. And you know how when one of you says something after you've been silent for like a half an hour, it like shatters the silence like a pane of glass. She goes, I don't know what women see in George Clooney. She blurted that out. And meanwhile, she thinks I'm wonderful and she's married to me. And I'm no George Clooney, man, So you're right. I mean, whatever type it is, I tell guys this too. You bring up a great point. Go to Maxim, go to Ask Men, look at the 100 most desirable women of this year. 30 of them won't even be able to give you a hard on. You won't know why they voted them, It's because everybody's got a type. And I had a guy come to me and go, I don't consider myself successful until every woman thinks I'm hot. I go, well, I can't help you. I guarantee my work and I can't guarantee that. And I told him the same thing I just told you. And the guys listening is go to Maxim and find me a list where all 100 women, are hot to you, where they say they're the most desirable in the world. And then come back and tell me if you still think it's reasonable, even knowing women are a lot more subjective in terms of men's looks and stuff, that every woman find you hot. I mean, back in college, I had this cute little girlfriend and this is when we were all freshmen. And of course, you don't pick your roommate when you go to college to be a freshman. So they saddled her up with some chick who was just bitchy and, one of these stuck up chicks. And she hated me. I mean, her roommate hated me. She's like, oh my God, that short little twerp with that cocky, weird attitude. I have no idea. Just if you go them, just don't bring him around here because I don't even want to see him. But, my girlfriend loved me, but her roommate was trying to break us up. I mean, she was busy introducing herself to other guys who were nothing like me. And sure enough, she got some guy who was a boyfriend who was one of these big, power lifter guys in a tank top wearing a gold chain driving a Trans Am. He lives somewhere in northern New Jersey, and he was just a big bully of a guy. Not actually a bad guy. Actually, ironically, was friendly with him, but he wasn't me. He wasn't anything like me. So I mean, it just proves, everybody's got their type and you're going to have to not take it personally when you're not. But another thing that goes along with that is I don't think many of us are our own type. Like if I were to place an order for my own design with the God of the universe, I wouldn't have issued what I am. Okay. I have big head and wide shoulders, and I'm short. I have the legs of a 4'10" guy and the torso of a 6 foot tall guy. Every time I see a guy who's built like me, and there aren't a lot of us out there, I just feel sorry for him. It's like, God, poor bastard has to deal with what I have to deal with. But it's funny. I had one of the sex coaches I was talking to one time, and I was being self-deprecating because, she likes me and thinks I'm wonderful. I said, well, I'm just this guy with a big head, wide shoulders, and short legs. I don't see what my wife. She goes, well, who's supposed to have the big head? Is it supposed to be women or men? Who's supposed to have the wide shoulders? Is it supposed to be women or men? And which gender is supposed to have long legs all the way up to their ass? Isn't that supposed to be women, not men? I go, well, I guess you have a point because, well, you sound like all men all the time to me. And I just laughed and I thanked her for that reassurance. And I realized she's right. It's just that I wouldn't have designed myself the way I am, but I've come to realize over the years that I can't arrogantly presume that on other women because lo and behold, a lot of women find me to be their type. Just like, the media driven perfection of, Sports Illustrated swimsuit model cover girl, although now they're having chunkier girls on the cover. That skinny runway model girl has never been my type. I've always liked little spunky brunettes with short hair who are built like retired gymnasts. That's what I like. That's what I got. Because that's who I like. And I think once we become comfortable in our own skin and realize that we're all different and it's okay to like different kind of people as a guy. Because women who we don't like, who like us, are going to shame us, because they're not our type. They're going to call us shallow, like we alluded to before. But then, once you figure that out, then, what happens is you become a lot more forgiving when you're not a woman's type. It's not anything having to do with you. It's not anything to really feel rejected over. It happens. But I'll tell you, as a man, you have a lot more of an opportunity of really, the word I was going to use is circumvent, but that sounds almost too stealthy and underground. I think women just forget you're not their type when you make them feel a certain way. When you do these things that foment safety and security and make her feel like she's got a man in her presence. You're just a guy, A lot of times they don't care that you weren't their physical type anymore. And all of a sudden you become their physical type because they appreciate the image of you. You become what they like. I've had women say to me, I used to think I wanted a 6 foot tall guy, but I wouldn't change you. Actually, one time someone asked that on a summit for women with Emily. And she said, yeah, to the fact that I used to date only 6 foot guys, but now here I am with Scott and he's a lot shorter than that. And even if you gave me a magic wand and I could wave it at him and make him 6 feet tall, I wouldn't. And I said, woman, give me that magic wand. And she just laughed, But, it's amazing how women just want a feeling, and that's something that's always been said. They want a guy who makes them feel a certain way. And when you're that guy, they will overlook weird things, even things that aren't good for them, like the fact that you're a drug dealer or you do illegal things. That's why you see good women get involved with the wrong guys, because that feeling will even override judgment. So, I mean, if you can give them that feeling and then back it up with being a good man of character who only means well, my God, these women will never leave you.
There's usually a disconnect for a lot of guys between sort of understanding what they should be, or it's like, for example, if you simply understand intellectually things like, deserve what you want, but it's another thing to actually feel it and believe it and make it a part of you. And I was just curious if you had some kind of aha experience that sort of brought that over the edge and became a real part of you. And if so, how do you install that in some of the guys that you deal with?
Well, I think for each guy, it's going to be something different. But what I see often is guys who just haven't tried. Guys who have really wanted to go skydiving, but are too chicken to jump out of the plane. I mean, you got to give something a try in life. I have something that I've started thinking about lately. A lot of times, especially back in the PUA era, Cliff, they talked a lot about evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology and how women, select mates based on certain, factors that we have no control over. And I've come to the conclusion that the biggest factor is us. We deselect ourselves. Men who believe they're not going to get any women, and men who recuse themselves from the whole mating dance, they've arrogantly made the decision on behalf of women. And I tell guys that, and it sometimes something pops in their brain and they go, hell with that. I'm not going to be my own worst enemy. I mean, I've got guys at advanced age who have never asked women out, and they wake up in their retirement age and suddenly they want a family. Suddenly they don't want to die alone. But they're the same guy at 65 who wasn't getting women at 25. But now they want a 35-year-old woman. Whew, that's heavy. What are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of what this woman could say to you right now in the moment? Or are you afraid of never succeeding with women? That's more fearsome. But it's kind of like the old, the matrix of, urgent and important and non-urgent and important. You're going to take care of the urgent things, maybe even the urgent, unimportant things, rather than those things that, are kind of get, you're going to simmer over time. And I can't believe the guys who for 30 years were too scared in the moment to break the ice with a woman. And now their worst nightmare is what they're waking up from. They're alone and they never had a family. They never built that legacy. The other thing is, I tell guys, it's pretty damn freaking arrogant of you to decide on behalf of her whether she likes you or not. Don't you think she should have a chance? What if she's your dream woman? What if she would have fallen in love with you and adored you, and you never even gave her an effing chance because you made the decision on her behalf? And then they'll say to me, oh, well, she won't like. How you're making that decision. Now, if guys are going through their lives building that buffer zone so that they can be right, okay, yes, I know I'm like this. I know I do things that are utterly unattractive to women, but I'm going to keep doing it just so I'm right. How is that any less arrogant? How is that any less hard-headed? If you say to myself, well, if I say to myself, I can't get women, I'm going to stay that way just to prove I'm right and you're wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong that you think I can get women. Who won? What's the big prize for winning that argument? No women?
I think that there's,
Right?
I hear your point there, and clearly I think a lot of guys that would fall into that category, but I think there's at least the same number, if not more, guys who maybe have tried and just don't have the right formula, and they keep
Yeah.
failing.
Well, that's
And
fair too.
you know,
But I can't tell you enough, Cliff. The guys who come to me, I mean, some of them need to be angered off a top dead center because they're just chickening out. But yeah, if you have guys out there and they're beating their head against the wall, all right, look, it's going to be one thing. They need to look for the pattern. That's the thing. Because most guys, if they're actually asking women out and they're not getting any of them to go, and they're kind of getting the, well, how about we not, there's a pattern to what goes on. And there's two things. You can do two things. You can blame the women for it. And I mean, I could sign you up for men going their own way, and I could introduce you to a whole crowd of guys who will pat you on the back and say, attaboy for feeling like that. But they all should look in the mirror. I had a guy come to me one time, famously at this point, because I've written about it, saying, even when I walk up to a woman and approach her, I don't even get within earshot of her before she waves me off in the rudest, most bitchy way possible. Or sometimes they walk the other way and avoid me. I go, that's not the woman. You're doing something that is such an absolute either creepy vibe or danger vibe that women feel they have to buffer themselves against you. That is not natural female human behavior. If I've had a woman wave me off before I even talked to her, it hasn't been since 7th grade. And what you're talking about is not typical human scenario. Now, a guy has either two choices when he hears that kind of tough love. He can go, see, I'm the biggest loser ever. Or he can take responsibility for it. I mean, you're going to be, victimhood is not sexy to women. The victimhood, the being a scaredy cat, the shying away from it, the dunking your head in the sand is all contributing to our lack of sexiness to women. Because it's that safety and security, that ability to be courageous, that ability to have a plan of action, the ability to stand tall, to face things that show women you're capable of being a man. And when you shy away even from them, then that perhaps ironically is decreasing your level of sexual attraction. So guys have to do one thing. They either have to take that first step if they've always been scared, or they got to come down from the attitude that blames, because nobody's ever become a success by blaming anybody. And I know I'm starting to sound like Tony Robbins at this point, but sometimes this shit's true. You can't be scared and you can't blame everybody else and not take any personal responsibility in life and ever be successful at anything. And listen, I know guys are throwing rotten tomatoes at their screens. I was that guy. Okay. I thought women were crazy. I thought they wanted some other guy other than me, that I was genetically doomed. But I wasn't trying. I wasn't giving them a chance. The truth is, however hot you think she is, first of all, she's your 10, not necessarily some other guy's. Second of all, women don't look at themselves as perfect. They see all their faults and all their problems. And they, you may even be thinking, well, she's getting asked out by 100 guys and she can get laid anytime she wants. Well, that's thinking like a man. Women know they're sexually attractive. What's ruining their self-esteem is they can't get any guy to want them for anything but sex. Where's a guy who's going to treat me like a human? Am I just some guy's sex toy? That's what makes them feel like they're not worth much. When you go and you're just wanting to have sex with women, and then you're not even confident enough to try to get that sex with women, imagine how pathetic that is. I mean, see that forest for the trees from the perspective of another human being. Just like again, let's say you've got something women want. All right. Let's say you're famous. Okay. Like, we like to talk about how rock stars get all the women. Let's say you're a rock star. By the way, I've coached 4 different famous rock stars who can't find the woman of their dreams for this reason. They get lots of groupies. They get lots of hangers on. They get lots of people who want to ride along with the fame, and they'll, do sexual favors for him or whatever. But not one of those women seems to connect with him. He can't find someone who's his best friend who can build a family with. It's the same thing. Women can get laid. Women have no problem getting laid. I mean, even average women get laid. That's not their predicament. What's ruining their self-esteem and making them think they can't get a guy like you if you're a good man of character is because no guys like that ever seem to come forward and talk to them. The more beautiful, the more kind-hearted a woman is, the more you come up to her and treat her like a normal human being, although from a masculine perspective, the more she's going to love you. In a way, the hotter and more beautiful and sexier she is, the easier it is to get her to adore you. That's the truth. And I know this is not the easy button. This is not what men want to hear. But listen, by virtue of being a short little pudgy guy with a goofy attitude, I've earned the right to be heard when it comes to this stuff because I've turned the ship around. I was shy. I was one of those guys who was shy and an approval seeker at the same time. That is just really bad. Because anytime I did open my mouth, it was to show off. And people just were left thinking, oh, this guy. So, like I said, I always have every guy's back who comes to me. I'm not going to pretend I know every guy's situation. And I'm not going to sit here on YouTube and say, oh, all you guys out there feeling like this, here's the common solution all of you can reach for, because that's bullshit. Every guy is different. But I will say this. I've had my fair share of dating disasters and humiliating moments and really, really feeling desperate and downtrodden. Like I had moments where I never thought I was going to see another woman naked again in my entire life. I had a time in my life I never thought I'd see a woman naked to begin with. And, of course, having come out that tunnel and to the light on the other side, it makes me even more passionate about helping guys do that. But yes, there are guys out there who are doing nothing. And then, like you said, there's another whole group of guys out there who think they're doing everything. But there's a pattern to what they're doing that's got to be changed. And once that course is corrected, they'll see results. I've never had a guy come to me who was of sound mind and who still believed in the inherent goodness of women who I couldn't help. Other guys who are so bitter and angry and vengeful, they're no different than angry feminists who just hate men. I can't help that. I also can't help people who aren't in our reality with us. They need a psychiatrist, not a coach. But notwithstanding any of those guys, I've never met a guy I couldn't help.
Well, that's very encouraging.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I have a way of telling things the way they are. And even as I hear myself talking, I'm realizing some of those guys out there aren't very familiar with my work. I'm easygoing and I'm very optimistic, but I don't piss on your leg and tell you it's raining. There are things that are going to be a lot easier to do than you ever thought. There's going to be success that comes a lot faster than you ever knew it would. But it's not like you can whisper 3 simple words in her ear and she spreads her legs and becomes your sex goddess. I mean, there's things close to that. But I mean, some guys are coming from a position where I say to them in a coaching program, there can be 4 or 5 sessions before you see any results at all. We got a long way to go. Then I have some guys who I go, look, when you sign up for this program, it's going to be the best thing you've ever did. And I already know that because you're going to get results almost immediately. And you're going to start doing things you didn't even know were possible if you hang in there with me after you got 3 or 4 girlfriends and continue with it. Some guys are their own worst enemy and they really just need to get out of their own way. And I would say, Clifford, that's more than half of the guys who come to me, at least, just have to get out of their own way. The political propagandization of your masculinity is toxic and women are just bothered by you. Women don't want to go out with you. What I call some other guy syndrome. Okay. SOGs, right? There's a bunch of SOGs out there. They think there's something wrong with them and some other guy is going to get every woman. The problem is 90% of us are SOGs. Who are these women all going out with if all of us think that some other guy is supposed to get them? Well, I don't know about you, But I've been to these parties or fundraising events where people who barely know each other are sitting around a table, and it's like, that's a pretty good looking girlfriend for a schlub like you. How come you're going out with a guy like him? And the girl, what's she going to say? She's going to go, he asked me out. I need at least a whole hand to remember how many times that's happened. It's amazing. You got to participate. I think a lot of times the whole evolutionary biology argument comes down to we as guys self-deselect. We take ourselves out, and we need to stop it.
It sounds like you almost got a formula for dealing with these guys at this point. You've probably seen these same issues over and over again.
Like I said, I don't think every guy's the same, but I do see a lot of different patterns come up. I get guys like, you want a pattern, I'll give you one. You want me to throw candy at this parade? I have had guys come here, I take them out in the field and I go, all right, meet this. Guys who aren't absolutely shaking in their boots. Guys who they have the ladder problem you talked about, where they're trying and they're not getting anywhere. And I'll say, okay, let's go talk to this woman, and I'm going to lay back and I'm going to let you lead the conversation and see how it goes. Or if you want, you can go talk to her, and I'll just pretend like I'm looking at shirts or something in this other side of the store while you talk to her. And they'll go, basically, I'll distill it and paraphrase it for you. Hi, I know I'm bothering you, and I'm really sorry. You wouldn't want to give me your phone number, would you? She'll go, yeah, you are bothering me. No, I don't want to give you my phone number. And they'll go, see? That's basically how it goes. Yeah, that's a very short version of it. But guys approach women as if they're bothering them and as if they're about to fail, and women follow the lead. They really do.
Well, I'm sure there's some guys that are just getting a bad reaction, even if they're not doing quite so obvious things.
Oh, well, yeah. Like I said, I just distilled it down. Sometimes it's like I had a guy come to me and he just had a darkness. In Spanish, it would be pesado. He was just pesado, which is like, kind of like Schlep Rock from the old Flintstone shows. Like there was a cloud over this guy and he just seemed bummed and like a bummer. And you felt almost like you felt a depression simmering within you just talking to him. And once I woke him up to that realization, everything changed very quickly. So yes, sometimes it's not right there on the surface. There are people who come with rather unique sticking points and what I call hidden detractors. I had a guy one time who had gotten a date with one of the cheerleaders from his local NBA team. Awesome, right? And he had her giggling on the phone. He met her online, all right? All you guys don't think any women are online. He met her online, and he charmed the hell out of her. She was giggling, thought he was this great guy. Went out with her, and 15 minutes into the date, she goes, look, I got to cut this off. I just don't think we're a match. And she left, and she didn't want to talk about it. And that's when he called me. And he lived here locally, so I was able to meet with him. And he paid me for an hour of my time, and I met him for breakfast, bought him breakfast. I guess technically he bought me breakfast. And I said 30 seconds into having sat down with him, I'm already going to give you 100% of the value you got out of me. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened with the cheerleader. And I told him, I said, you bat your eyes like a girl when you talk like this, complete with the head motions. Right? It was creepy as hell. Like even women who do that would be creepy, but it was a feminine, creepy thing he was doing. He went, I don't do that. I said, well, I'll tell you what, next time you do it, I'll just raise one finger silently. 10 seconds later, I raised a finger silently. He went, really? I said, he goes, I don't think I'm, and I did it again. I said, okay, now we're 1 minute into this coaching meeting. There's 59 more minutes to use. You can ask me whatever you want, but I just cured your problem. You got to stop doing that. He goes, well, none of my friends have ever told me. I said, they won't tell you that. They're not. That's what I'm for. I will tell you the things your friends won't tell you. I have your back. I want you to succeed. I really wish you had this to go back and get that silver dancer girl, the little cheerleader, And he wrote me and said he didn't have the problems anymore. And he was one of these guys who had everything going for him. So yes, hidden detractors are really hard to diagnose sometimes because you're just not getting anywhere with women and you just don't know why. Sometimes I can do that over Skype if I'm looking at you. Sometimes you have to see me in person. You know, if you're the kind of guy, I'll tell you, if you're the kind of guy, Clifford, the kind of guy listening, you're reading all the books, you're buying all the programs, you're attending all these webinars, and nothing's changing. Boom, I just diagnosed it. It's a hidden detractor. It's not something that's covered in a book. And you need somebody to be honest with you and help you get through it. That happens.
Are there any particular sticking points you come across that you find either impossible to fix, or have you come up with some unique fixes for some?
I've helped guys who are transsexual. I've helped guys who have got third-degree burn scars on their face. I've helped guys who are missing limbs. I've got guys who are suffering from diseases. I've helped them all. All of them get women. The only two things I can't help is if you hate the bitches, you can't stand women anymore, you're done with them, and you just want them all to die. Or if you're not in our reality with this, if you're under the care of a psychiatrist, I can't help you. Actually, sometimes I still can, but I know better than to try most of the time. There's guys who come to me who have mild versions of Asperger's and things like that, and I can help them. But I take those on a case-by-case basis also. But I've had guys come to me. I had a guy who was 4'7". I got him a girlfriend. You know, I mean, I had a guy come to me who was 6'9", and he had a hard time getting women because he was tall. You know, guys come to me with all kinds of, guys who come to me from, I can just rattle off, Russia, mainland China, India. They come to places like the UK and America, and they think all these women aren't going to want them. Yes, they will. You just have to get through it. You have to do what's right. You have to do what works. So the guy who's come along, whose circumstances other than the two that I mentioned, who I couldn't help, has not shown up yet. He's as yet a unicorn.
Well, that's pretty good. What about guys who are, just not comfortable with themselves, and it has nothing really to do with the women.
Mm-hmm.
How do you fix that, or how do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, it could be for any number of reasons. They're not comfortable with themselves. Sometimes it's complete bullshit. Sometimes it's something they've been fed from their mom and dad or from their last poisonous relationship that they've learned to believe. And what I tell those guys is, look, as long as you are getting hamstrung in life by that person's thought processes, you're granting that person superpowers over you that they don't deserve. That's really a wake-up call. Kind of like telling guys they're arrogant for not letting women make their own decision. That sometimes it's just what they needed to wake the hell up and go, my God, that's like somebody's lifted the veil. I get women who come to me who have been sexually assaulted by some guy, and now they've let their sex life and they've let their emotions be ruined. They're granting this person who assaulted them superpowers over them. And I know that's really Pollyannish to say, but it is the truth regardless. If you say to someone, look, until you get over this negativity, until you learn to forgive yourself, until you get over the guilt and give yourself the freedom to exist and succeed, I can't help you. And some people have very profound things that have happened. Some people have done things that are really bad, and it would be hard to forgive oneself for doing it. And I understand when they come to me and go, you don't understand, this is really hard, but what other choice do you have? I know it's hard. What other choice do you have? Half your face is burned off. You grew up and you were 4'7". You decided you wanted to come to the United States from this other country for a better life, and you land here and there's this huge unfair stigma about everybody from your country. What choice do you have? Well, if you're from the other country, you can get on the next flight and move home, but you don't want to do that. You came here for a reason. So you're either going to meet the women and attract them, or you're not. You're either going to believe the limiting belief's going to preclude any woman from ever liking you, or you will get around that. You will get over it. I give guys on a case-by-case basis the reality of it. Hey, you know what? If you're this kind of guy, I can't guarantee 100% of the women you meet are going to fall in love with you. All right. All I can guarantee is that you are going to be the best version of who you are, and the right woman for you will respond to that. You will like who you respond. You will like who you attract when you're a man who deserves what he wants. I've had guys who come to me who have herpes and they think they're broken. They meet the world's most beautiful woman in the world, disclose to her that they've got herpes, and she starts sobbing because so does she, and they go live their world together. People, I mean, I thought when I was dating, this is true story, that once women heard that I had a clinically schizophrenic, crazy ex-wife. No, really, I have a crazy ex-wife. I thought women would run the other way screaming. Not only did no women ever run away screaming, I had women who said, if that woman ever starts anything with you, I will go to court with you and defend your right to have your daughter. I mean, they were already on my team at midway through the first date. And it all culminated in me meeting my wife. And, you know, by now, if any guy follows my work out there, they know that my wife and I both have exes who are schizophrenic. We met at breakfast and, you know, imagine the connection. I mean, and I remember thinking to myself how ridiculous it was, thinking that I was never going to meet a woman who could get past that, when I met the woman who we were perfect for each other because she was going through the same thing. Got to give ourselves credit. You know, we got to allow ourselves not to be perfect and find the other person who's perfectly imperfect for us.
Well, that's I think you've given us a very good rundown of how you approach the problems that guys have with women.
Yeah.
Maybe you can take a few minutes now and tell us a little bit about, specifically what you offer guys in terms of, their, I guess you sounds like you take them out in day games sometimes. You've certainly got your podcasts and products and maybe other events. Just give us a little rundown of what someone can follow up with you.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about how there's two kinds of guys all night. There's guys who want you to piss on their leg and tell them it's raining and tell them how wonderful they are when they're not. And there's guys who want to hear it the way it is, and like guys who shoot straight. The guys who are the latter are guys who read my newsletters and guys who I'm happy to get to know. Hopefully you realize I'm not about name calling. I'm not about making guys feel worse about themselves. I mean, I was on a mastermind meeting one time with this guy, and he was a rather big name. And he said, yeah, when I take guys out in field and they refuse to, they're little bitches and they won't talk to a woman, I punch them in the stomach. And I just looked at him in the face and I said, no, you don't. And he just looked at me like blank. I go, no, you don't. I mean, I kind of gotten to the point where I'm, Dave Miz from Insider Internet Dating calls me Papa Bear. That's kind of how guys look at me. They look at me as like, I'm not the oldest guy out there, but somehow I'm like the mature, sensible guy amongst a lot of dating coaches. And I just felt, I blurted it out. I'm like, no, you don't. You do not punch guys who pay you a couple grand to take them out in field. You would have been sued by now. That's not something to even be proud of. What are you talking about this? Well, he stood behind it, but no, I'm not punching guys in the stomach when I take them out. I mean, they've had enough gut punches already from how they feel about women before they get to me. I make mistakes. I go out in field. I do demos, damn it. I don't tell guys to go do it. I'll lead. I'll go meet these women first, and guys are amazed. But I'm not ever, I mean, sometimes I will say the wrong thing. I'll mess up, and it almost makes guys feel better. I mean, I've never, ever in 11 years, ever had any woman treat us poorly. Like martini throwing in your face, get away from me, you little twerp. We have never had, on any time I've ever taken guy in field, we have never had a woman treat us poorly. Never been a rude rejection, ever. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, if you keep a space with women and you're nice to them, not in the Mr. Nice Guy way, but you're pleasant to them and friendly and upbeat, you won't get that. What people know when they're being assholes, and so do women. We've had women who weren't interested, and women who had a boyfriend, and women who were, mildly interested in talking to us, but we never had a rude rejection. And I'll tell you, I just don't believe in anything other than telling guys what works and respecting everybody who comes. And so to that end, I'm not going to tell everybody to go sign up for my coaching program, especially if you barely know me. This has been a cool intro. Hopefully I've given you guys some value. I have two things going on. They're both called The Mountaintop. One of them's the podcast. You can find it on iTunes under health/sexuality. Go on iTunes under podcast and search Mountaintop. You'll get my podcast. I have great guests on. Nowadays, we've kind of gone past just dating and relationships. And we talk about all kinds of men's issues, health, fitness, masculinity, men's rights even. I go down that trail not as a woman hater, but as someone who's really helping men and women get together. And then we just started a Facebook group with the same name that you can find on Facebook. And man, it's only been about 48 hours as of the filming of this. And we already got 300 members. It's happening fast. And guys are really responding to this need for honest forum for men of character. Start off with that. And then if you like it, I got so many information products that can help you with anything. Love to coach you. I guarantee everything I do. Everybody who's ever worked with me has gotten results. All of that can come in good time. Get to know us. I'd like to get to know you, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, that was very heartfelt sales pitch. I really, I like that.
I don't know what I was selling. I mean, it's all free, by the way. I mean, I'm not charging for the Facebook group or the podcast. Go and enjoy it.
Sure.
All you can.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time with me tonight, and I think that you've presented an interesting perspective. I think everybody kind of expects the not the sort of average normal guy. Like I think your image is more than some of the other guys that are out there coaching, and I think people will relate to this in a very sincere way. So I want to thank you again for having spent some time with me, and we'll definitely have to do this again soon.
I'd love that. Yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about this, guys. I mean, I was not succeeding, and then when I found the success with women and found the woman of my dreams, this has been my life purpose. There's nothing more important I can be doing than helping you find the success with women you want. And I stress those last two words. That's going to look slightly different for every guy, but don't let someone else pitch you on the kind of success with women you should be having. You decide what that is, and then you go for it.
That was great. All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.